Welcome to the fifth or sixth and final episode of Cool Tools this year. I wanted this to be kind of special to end the year, so I went back through the last 40 episodes of Cool Tools spanning half a dozen years and gathered up 10 of the best tools of all time, judged by how much I rely upon them here in my shop even today and how much they have affected the shops of my viewers for the good based upon all the feedback that I've received since these segments originally aired. I also reached out to some of the tool companies that would take my call and secured some special discounts for this episode that are time sensitive. So you absolutely should check out the link below this video, either by expanding the video description below or by looking at the comment that I pinned to the top of the comment section. Because I think you're going to be shocked at how little some of these tools cost compared to the value they've brought to my shop and to literally thousands of my viewers. This is going to be a special one. So let's get started. These are Narex Richter chisels, and they're special. Narex makes great chisels. They've been doing so for 100 years. They have several different types available, and they're all great tools. I've long recommended Narex chisels to our viewers because they're perhaps the best value for the price out there. But these here are different. These chisels are a special edition named after Václav Richter, who was a village blacksmith in the Czech Republic who started making and selling chisels and gimlets in 1919. It was his shop that grew into the Narex factory, where they still make chisels using old world drop forging techniques. So 100 years after Mr. Richter made his first chisel, Narex decided to honor him by producing a set of ultra premium chisels that rival anything that there is on the market. First of all, they are stunning to look at. They put a great deal of effort into the fit and finish. All the steel surfaces are polished to a mirror finish. I dulled the backs of mine a little bit because I always lap my chisels whether they're flat or not. The handles are made from domestically harvested European ash with stainless steel ferrules and leather washers. They're comfortable to hold and grip. In fit and finish alone, they rival just about anything out there. But let's talk about what really matters, the steel. This is not your typical chisel steel. It's a high-tech alloy with chromium for enhanced hardenability and vanadium for grain reduction and greater toughness. But after drop forging and initial hardening, they cryogenically freeze the steel in liquid nitrogen to minus 190 degrees Fahrenheit. This alters the steel on the molecular level, greatly increasing its strength and wear resistance. They're rated for hardness at Rockwell 62. All this means that they will take a very, very fine edge, and their edge retention is as good as any premium tool on the market. Another thing worth pointing out is the very finely beveled edges on the sides. Compare that to how there are facets on the edges of these other high-quality chisels. These fine bevels allow the tool to get into tight places, such as between dovetails. But it is very difficult to manufacture chisels with fine edges like this because the machine cannot grip the chisel during the grinding process. It's not something the average user may notice unless he cuts dovetails, but it's a sign of a very well-made tool. As I said, I have long recommended Narex chisels for their value. They're always a good balance between quality and price, but their Richter line is different. They didn't try to balance anything here. They threw all the weight to the quality side. These are lifetime tools, the good set that you keep in a box and you take out for each project, but then you hide them so nobody else can touch them. They're a little more expensive than other Narex products, but they're still less than comparable chisels from Lie-Nielsen or Veritas. If you're thinking of a premium chisel set, Narex Richter chisels are absolutely worth checking out. I'll link to them below this video. I use sacrificial fence faces frequently when cutting rabbets, tenons, raised panels. You've seen them in lots of tutorials on our channel. And these handy little clamps are by far the handiest way to attach a fence to a fence. I've used different brands, but the Milescraft versions seem to be the best balance between quality and price. They're universal, meaning they will work with wide fences and narrow ones. And they can also be used to attach stop blocks on the router table or the miter saw, corner clamps for assembly, feather boards, all sorts of different things. Fence clamps are one of those tools folks don't know they need until they get a couple, and then they find themselves reaching for them all the time. I'll link to them below the video. Here's another oldie but a goodie. This is something I think I use every single day. It's my Stanley 10-foot pocket-sized measuring tape. How often are you outside the shop and you need to measure something? All the time, right? I love this little tape because it's long enough to be useful, yet it's less than a ½ inch thick, so it fits in my pocket without feeling like I'm carrying around a rock. In fact, I keep it in that little watch pocket in my pants, which I don't need for a pocket watch since I'm not an old-timey train conductor. You'll forget it's in there until someone inevitably says, "How wide is that?" And you get to pull out your tape measure and save the day. Honestly, get one of these. They're inexpensive. This one has lasted me 5 years or so, and it's still good as new. I'll link to it below this video. It's just a couple of cuts. Your ears will be fine, right? They will be if you have your ISOtunes Bluetooth earbuds in, because you'd already have your ANSI certified hearing protection on because you're listening to your favorite music and podcasts. And you're supporting a small family business at the same time. Please use the link below this video to learn more and to show them you support what we do as well. This is something every woodworker should own, a drill bit gauge. Let's face it, you don't always put your drill bits away when you're done with them. This little guy will help you figure out what the sizes are when you eventually get around to slipping them back in their places. It's heavy steel, so it's going to last forever, and it cost me about $5. Here's another way to use it. You know how store-bought dowels are never a consistent size? They're usually actually a little smaller. You can use this to measure your dowel and then match it to the proper drill bit. No more putting an undersized dowel in a 5/16 hole. If you check out the links below, you're also going to find another gauge. This one is made of plastic, but it's for nuts, bolts, and screws. I don't have to tell you how handy this little guy is when it comes time to put away that sort of junk. Well, some time back, I mentioned how I like to use zebra pens in and outside the shop for decades, and how I've always thought they were such a great value. Well, a viewer said I should try the F701 model. I was skeptical because I liked the regular ones, but now I'm a convert. It's entirely stainless steel on the barrel, no plastic. It feels heavier and higher in quality. I've had no complaints with the way the other ones wrote, but this extra weight makes this one feel different. I really like it. And I can't believe how inexpensive this was, like a few bucks, which is one of the reasons I like zebra pens in general. When people steal them from you, which they do once they see how nicely they write, or if you lose one, which we do, it doesn't hurt. They also make a pencil version, but as you know, I am not trading my Pentel Graph Gear pencils for anything. They are the best mechanical pencils I have ever used. Sorry, Zebra. I'll link to them below this video, both of them in fact. You wouldn't think something as simple as a writing instrument would be so game-changing, but these are among the most used tools in any shop. Shino rules may be the best kept secret in measuring tools. The quality and precision is outstanding, and the price is almost ridiculously low for a precise Japanese-made tool. This is a 6-inch Starrett rule. Everybody agrees that Starrett's a top brand in measuring tools, and it is a nice rule. This is a 6-inch Shino rule. They both feature etched scales that are crisp, clear, and will not wear off. They both have precise graduations that are easy to read. They both have scales on the ends for greater versatility. They're both hardened stainless steel with a nice baked-on satin finish to eliminate glare. Honestly, if it weren't for the brand names marked on the other face, I don't believe the average woodworker would know which ruler was $30 and which one was $13. That's right, the Shino rule is less than half the price of the Starrett. In fact, if you don't need the little scales on the ends, you can get the same Shino quality for 1/3 of the price, $10. Of course, the real reason I like them are the options. They offer several versions so you can find the one that best suits you. My favorite is the 4R model because while I may occasionally need the fine 16th and 32nd inch scales on one side, most of the time I'm working in 8ths and 16ths, so I love the uncluttered, easy to read obverse. I think this is more suited to a woodworker. Of course, not all woodworkers live in the US, so they make metric versions for the rest of the world with millimeters on one side and a fine imperial scale on the other. They also have larger versions in 12-inch, 24-inch, and 36-inch, and some pocket versions with conversions and other references on the back. All are available in either metric or imperial. Don't let the prices fool you. Remember, these are not those typical cheap stamped out rules, even if they're priced like they may be. They are of machinist quality, precisely ground and etched with a premium finish. I'll put a link below so you can check them out. While we're on the subject of layout tools, I have one more for you. This is a magnetic combination square that I've been using for about 10 years. It's not the only combination square I use, but it may be the one I reach for the most because I love how fast it is to adjust and even take out the rule and put it back in without messing with that little spring-loaded mechanism that's typically found on combination squares. I've talked about this in the past, but unfortunately, the company that used to make them stopped making them several years ago, so you haven't been able to get one for quite a while. But a couple months back, a viewer pointed me to another company that has started selling them. So I bought one of the Capro versions just to make sure that it was the same quality, and it's pretty much the same square. So this is great news, because for quick layout, you cannot beat this thing. I'm not sure I would consider it as precise as a high-end Starrett, but I've never been disappointed in the accuracy. The only thing I don't like is that you have to be careful not to bump the end of the rule, especially if you have it extended to a precise distance from the body, because the magnets aren't going to lock it in place like a regular combination square. If you wanted one when I first showed it a few years back and you couldn't get it, or you want another one, I'll put a link below. But I grab it quick. I suspect they may sell out fairly rapidly. Maybe it's because I just turned 42 a couple days ago, but I don't see things as well as I used to. Sometimes I need more light, and sometimes I need it in places where it's less than convenient to get light. That's why I'm a big fan of the LED lamps over at woodturnerswonders.com. They have a whole selection of them, and they're all worth checking out. But my favorite are these little inexpensive galaxy lamps. They have magnetic bases, and their compact size make them easy to attach to all sorts of shop machines. The LEDs put out 200 lumens of daylight color and last about 20,000 hours. They plug in, so there's no batteries to worry about, and the magnetic base generates about 6 pounds of pull, more than enough to keep it firmly seated wherever you want to hang it. The flex shaft makes it easy to get light where you need it and keep it there. It comes with a 1-year warranty, and Ken over at woodturnerswonders.com is a great to deal with. I try to include products from small businesses like this on Cool Tools as much as I can, and this is definitely one worth checking out. You know what I hate? Yoga pants. They ride up. You know what I love? Yoga mats, because they make great benchtop pads for sanding and routing. Router mats have been around for a long time, and they work great to hold your workpiece in place without clamps. But they usually aren't cheap, they aren't very durable, and they aren't always conveniently sized for your bench. A good yoga mat is really grippy. It has to be, because they don't want people slipping on the floor while they're using it. And they're big. This one is 2 foot by 6 foot, and it's ideally rectangular shape for a bench top. Plus, it's really tough. I use mine for routing and for sanding, but it's also great for protecting a saw top when you need extra workspace. I can't speak for every cheap yoga mat out there, but I know this one works well in my shop. I'll link to it below so you can check it out. This strange-looking tool always draws attention when I use it, and rightfully so, because it's one of my favorite simple tools in my whole shop. It's a pilot bit with a countersink and a depth stop all at one. The 1/8" drill bit is just the right size for many of the screws I use most often. It's adjustable in length and of course replaceable if you break or you dull it. But the countersink portion is carbide tipped, so it stays sharp to cut cleanly for a very long time. Seriously, if you've never used a carbide countersink before, you're in for a treat. But the most unique feature has to be the depth stop, which is adjustable so you can set how far beneath the surface of the workpiece you wish the screw head to lie. But it's not a fixed collar. There's a bearing inside, so the stop collar will not spin upon and potentially mar the surface of your workpiece. This thing is fast, it's accurate, the holes it creates are clean and crisp. I've used mine pretty extensively for well over a year, but the carbide tips on the countersink are still cutting beautifully. You wouldn't think such a simple tool as a countersink could get me so excited, but I really like this thing. I'll link to it below so you can check it out. As the builders behind some of the top brands in the industry, Harvey Machinery has for decades been letting others take credit for their innovation. Now they've developed their own line of saws with the quality and features once reserved only for professional shops. The woodworking world is officially on notice. Harvey Machinery will be in the shadows no longer.